Yes, welcome once again to the Reentry Connect podcast here with triggers and pitfalls after release. Woo, a tough subject that a lot of us can relate to. I'm here with Miss Sheena.
Absolutely.
Yes, a lot of the group, they couldn't make it tonight, but they're going to be coming back. You know, everybody has some endeavors to tend to. But without further ado, I want you to, just give a shout out to one day at a time, Mr. Mel Wells, 215-226-7860. If you're looking for from reentry support, if you're looking for any type of recovery support, feel free to reach out to them. Great resources. Also, gpstransportation.net. Mention my name. Great transportation throughout the whole tri-state, Philadelphia, soon to be all over the world. But long story short, if you need that great transportation, feel free to reach out to them as well. Miss Sheena, yes, we're rocking it tonight. It's all right. Miss Sarita, no, we're not here, but it's okay. They're gonna be back. They're with us in spirit. So,
Everybody
Miss,
gets busy.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Miss Sheena, tell us the triggers and pitfalls after release. Why
Wow.
do you think that's like a great topic to talk about?
I think that's a great topic to talk about because I think it's not talked about very often. I don't think that when you're getting released, it's all about the excitement, what you're gonna do when you get home, how you're gonna do this, what you're gonna eat. Oh, I want to go shopping there. I want to go see this person and that person. But people aren't really talking about fears, what happens when you come home as far as like things that could be a trigger, what to do with those triggers. So I think it's an important topic for us to cover when you're talking about reentry.
Yeah, I agree with you as well because I know oftentimes, and I know we spoke in the past about how when we're in prison and when we're not used to authority telling us what to do, and when we go in there, we have those confrontations, we have those run-ins with people having authority over us. However, when we return to society, most people that parole out often have a parole officer as well. And a
Mhm.
lot of times they feel as though a parole officer can be too hard. Some parole officers can be jealous, especially if they see you advancing way more than them and things like that. So they'll have it out for you for some apparent reason. So oftentimes that can trigger you in a lot of ways, and that's just from a perspective of an authority figure trying to rule your life or have control over your life. And that can really trigger a person a lot, you know.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
which
POs seem to be a big trigger. I think parole officers, I think that we already have that mentality inside that those in authority over us sometimes use it and abuse it. So then you got to come out and answer to this other person who, I made my parole officer my best friend. I decided I was going to tell her everything and anything to the point like where she was like, you don't have to tell me everything. I was like, no, we going to talk about everything. So,
mm,
um, and I did get a good PO. I mean, I've heard a lot of people who do not, but at the same time, just like we had to maneuver in there and not let certain officers get to us, not, you have to do the same thing out here when you get with PO. And if you don't, personalities sometimes just don't work together. You can always go to a supervisor, and I don't think people know that, and say, hey, this isn't working out. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's just a personality clash. And you can request, I know in Missouri, you can request for a different officer.
yeah, well, the crazy thing is, I guess in the state of Pennsylvania, especially in the city of Philadelphia, way back when, I know when I first came home, it seemed like they changed parole officers like almost every month. Every
Hmm.
month you had a new number to a new agent because another agent went to another region and that region got shut down. And it's like there was no consistency. So
Yep.
there was no time for anybody to learn who you are as an individual. A lot of times they're judging you off of past experiences with other individuals. They automatically assume, oh, everybody wants to be lazy. Nobody wants to follow the rules. You want to come out and do your own thing. Well, that's not the case, with most people. Most people want to do the right thing. They don't want people all on their back, asking them to show you pay stubs and, oh, we can come into your house and look in your shoebox if we wanted to. But I'm thinking, like, what we walk with integrity. Like, why would you want to be violated in such a way as if you're not human or something? You know
I
what I
think that
mean?
I absolutely do. I think that same thing, like I said, even in there, people come and work in Department of Corrections and they get this power and control thing going on. And,
Mhm.
these people, they get all this power over people. And instead of, staying on top of somebody like that, why not say, what can I do to help you? We need more people. I think that when people are in positions of Department of Corrections, probation and parole officers, they need mental evaluations. They need to have like a something that they go through to make sure that they're in a good place in their life to be over other people's lives, because
Absolutely.
that's a trigger. I mean, and we're talking about triggers. Even getting pulled over because you're speeding could be a trigger. You get nervous, you don't know what's going to happen, you're on parole, now you got to call your parole officer. I know the
Mhm.
first time I got pulled over scared me to death, and of course it pops up known to be armed and dangerous because I was on parole.
Wow.
Like, now here comes two other cop cars. So even though it's like I'm only speeding maybe 20 mile an hour speed limit, whatever, I'm not a great driver, but but it is hypothetically, yes. It is scary that when you get in those situations and other people have authority over you once again.
Wow.
Big
Yeah.
trigger, big trigger.
That's a big trigger. And those triggers can sometimes lead to the pitfalls. And that's just from one perspective. That's just from the authority figure, people abusing
Hmm.
their authority, which goes on a lot. As you said, sometimes we can, kind of see them really have to do like intensive training. How does it feel for you to have handcuffs on, thrown in the cell, spent in there, for something you didn't even do, or an officer lied on you, and things like that. These are some of the things that should go through in training. But leading to that pitfall, and from the perspective of talking back to the authority, or
Mm,
even getting into an altercation where, okay, yes, your urine may have been hot. You may have came in past curfew. We're grown people, but we came in
right.
past curfew and things like that, and they decided that they wanted to violate you. And it's like it's just out of your hands, and you get so frustrated because you worked so hard for what you had. You try to get excused from work and things like that. And that's one thing that I really oppose of when people I've heard often, like people say, "Well, my parole officer want me to come in and they want me to just leave work and take off work," when you can't do that. You can get fired. So, and it's a sad thing because I've seen people really suffer the sanctions due to them having to see their parole officers, during work hours.
Oh yeah, or like you said earlier, if where you were, I mean, I know this happens too in Missouri, where
Mhm.
they do change parole officers sometimes, and you don't get the memo, you don't get notified. So now you're trying to contact this person, you can't get a hold of that person no more because they don't even work in this office no more. And so, but they're going to violate you because you didn't find whoever you was supposed to. I didn't even know I had a new parole officer, so how did I know? I mean,
Mhm.
I had like four parole officers, I guess, but I was on call-in status by the month 4, so I
Mhm.
was blessed. But I know that's not the case for a lot of people at all, and so those are triggers. And then we talked about not only those triggers, if families and you get in arguments, they're like, well, I'll call your parole officer. So
Mhm.
you're steadily walking in this on eggshells all the time. We come from prison where we're in this type of war zone, walking on eggshells. Now we come out here and scared to death somebody could send us back to prison for any little thing, curfew. I got pulled over because I was speeding. Ran the red light. I mean, just
Mhm.
anything can send you back to prison. Simple, and that's a big trigger.
It's a big, big trigger, and as you said, any little thing like that, and even going back, and I know we always speak about going back into the same environments that we once were in. We've been through, um, some of the people. Hey, how you doing there? Come enjoy the show, yes, sir. Yeah, even coming back to the same environments, getting around people that we used to be around, can
Yep.
be a pitfall in itself because here it is. These were the people that you hung around before you got arrested. These were the people you were around before you decided to make the wrong decisions. So here you is, you're throwing rocks at the prison again. You're throwing rocks at the prison gate. Hey, come get me. So a lot of that, again, going back to, um, it could be triggers within that.
Oh yeah.
Trouble can happen and erupt, and you never know where it could go from there.
People need to remember, like, when you were in prison, was those people that are so glad to see you when you got home, were they the ones writing you letters and making sure you had canteen or stamps? If they're not there, they don't care now. They just glad that you can come out and be in some drama, and they think you're your old self. And you just need to remind people that, hey, that's not who I am anymore, and this is not what I want in my life anymore. But I'm gonna stop real quick and introduce Tyler. This
Okay,
is
Mr. Tyler.
Tyler.
Okay,
This is
Mr.
Mr.
Tyler.
Tyler. Tyler is a combat veteran. He did 2 tours in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
So for the Army, and he helped me a lot with triggers and pitfalls when I met him because he understood PTSD. So, he made the mistake of taking me to Subway. That didn't work out well for him. Because
choices was not a good thing for her.
Wow.
So that was.
So you went from an environment where, hey, you take this meal and that's it, to I can pick whatever I want.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't know what I want. I don't know what that tastes like. Well, I don't know. Well.
So now let me ask you, was it frustrating for you? Was it frustrating you that she couldn't make up her mind?
Well, no, I just felt bad because she was so. It created a lot of hostility very quickly. Like. She was ready to like throat punch. Like, what are you doing? This is stupid. It's like, what?
Wow. So it was a trigger. That was a trigger right there.
It was a trigger for me. I felt overwhelmed because she was like, well, what meat you want? Well, what cheese you want? What vegetables do you want on it? And I'm like, I don't know what meat I like. And I was looking at him like, what do I like? And he's looking at me like, I don't know what you like. I mean, we had just started dating. So it was a point that was like, even when my mom took me to Walmart and trying to pick out a deodorant and a toothpaste, I was overwhelmed. And so in prison, we protect ourselves with emotions a lot, and we turn that to anger because we don't want people to see that we're weak. And so it would turn into anger. My triggers would, because I didn't want people to think I was weak or stupid or something was wrong with me. In the end, I was really showing that something was really wrong with me.
Something was really wrong. Wow. That's deep right there. And a lot of times too, people forget that when it comes to us trying to adjust to normal day living out here, let's face it, it's just something totally opposite from what we just been through. Even something as simple as walking down the street saying hello, or even something walking past the street, and somebody just turning their head and not saying anything. We automatically think, oh, somebody has something against us. That's a quick trigger. Oh, was you too good to look at me, or this, that, and the third? Or like I mentioned, when we're in the shopping center, we're looking around, people are watching us. People are looking at me like, wow, this giant. I'm like, that. I'm a human being too. But like I said, it took me time to understand that, hey, you are a big guy. People are going to look at you, but then once I smile, it seems like everybody just get a different reaction. Like, wow, this is a gentle giant. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but there were, like you say, the triggers. What was another trigger? Another trigger was more like when I thought I would be rejected from even like with employment. Like he'd be like, Dad, like it's really true. If you have a felony, they're not going to hire you. Every time I left the interview, when they said they didn't have to call me back or things like that. And, and that could be a trigger too. Like you could just feel like giving up, and that can lead back into that pitfall.
That's how I was. I mean, I kept applying. I couldn't even get a job at Burger King. Burger King, a fast food joint, would not even hire me. And my crime, even though I had came out after 25 years. So my crime, even though I just got out, my crime hadn't happened for 25 years. So I hadn't committed any violence. I hadn't done any, got any new charges, anything like that. 25 years ago, this happened. And so, and that was it. I actually wrote down some pitfalls before we started, and rejection was one of them, because I would get so angry. I'd come home and cry like, nobody's going to give me a job. How am I going to make it out here? I got bills to pay, and, it's not like little canteen. You actually got real bills to pay. The lights have to be on. You have to, and, so for me, rejection was a huge cost. It created quite a depression in me. I went through like a 2-year depression because I just couldn't get a job. I actually had to go out of state and get a travel permit, and I got a job in Arkansas. I had to drive an hour and something, 15 minutes every day.
Every day. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. So you said that you came up with a list. Do you mind like sharing?
Yeah,
Some of the
I
list?
put family pressure, old friends, and things that we used to do, rejection, pressure from family. Why haven't you got a job yet? Or your parole officer, why haven't you got a job? Why aren't you in doing this? Why aren't you doing that? That pressure, that always questioning, what am I doing? What am I not doing?
Exactly.
Choices. These are little things, loud bangs. Hear loud bangs in prison. You hear all the bangs all the time. So when I hear something like a clanging, like a metal door,
It irks.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
still
irks.
tells me.
Yeah.
People running into me, that's a big problem. I don't know why you can't, see I'm standing here and why you can't. And if you do run into me, it's a simple, oh, my bad,
Excuse
excuse
me. I'm
me,
sorry. Forgive
I'm
me.
sorry. But people out here, they just keep walking and boy, then nothing. He's laughing because I turn around like, what,
The head cocked sideways a little, like, baby.
touching and hugging without permission. When somebody first comes home, we haven't touched, we haven't hugged, and it doesn't mean we don't love you. We don't want you to be around us. It doesn't mean we don't want to have those things, but it's unfamiliar territory after years in prison. So, just simple as, hey, do you mind if I hug you? Because then I can mentally prepare myself that somebody's going to touch me.
Wow. Wow.
Crowded rooms are real hard. All of us know when nobody likes our back open, so we like to have a closed room where we have control of our surroundings. People staring at us, we think that everybody thinks we've been in prison. So, it's like they know. People talking about convicts. That was a trigger. Like walking in somewhere and they're talking about convicts or people, who've been in prison, and you catch those conversations. That's a
Yeah.
trigger because all of a sudden now you feel rejected before you even got to enter into a conversation with
Exactly.
somebody.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
those are the things that I wrote down, Keenan, that was
Yeah.
like,
And
those
that's
were the things for me.
Yeah, that's powerful, especially that last one when they refer to you as something like they refer to you. And I've heard like one time I would think I was in a seminar where I was speaking, and somebody said, "Yeah, well, the perpetrator or and then somebody had to say, hold on, we don't use that word, the
Right.
perpetrator or the convict or the convicted felon and this, that, and the third." It's like, okay, it was a season, okay, when we went through that phase. But as you said, that happened 20 something years ago. But again, with the law the way it is, they try to say, okay, it has to stay on your jacket, now unless you get it expunged or whatever the case may be. They give you a pardon where it clears off your record. But at the same time, we're not that person that people once said we were. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And like you said, that is a huge trigger, especially when you go before some professionals, when they
Mhm.
think just because they're in a high position or I'm CEO and I'm this and I'm that, or like you're still a human being.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's that's one of the big triggers for me too, is when people that were in those high positions, they tend to look down on you because you've been to prison.
Yep.
Like they would try to say, well, you didn't accomplish XYZ in 5 years. Oh my God. Well, everybody didn't grow up with a silver spoon or gold spoon in their mouths like you did. You know what I mean? And, everybody wasn't set back, almost 20 years of life lost because you were in prison. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So it takes time for people to grow and get to a certain level. So nothing
Oh,
comes overnight. Hmm.
but they get mad when you get more successful than in 5 years than they did in 40.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
like business policy stuff.
Right.
Whatever.
Well,
Hmm.
I think for me, I mean, I'll ask Tyler, what was the difficult for you being with somebody like me, coming home? What was hard for you maybe? What do you think was difficult?
I don't think it was difficult. It was more of a irony of seeing the things I went through in my past. Like when I came home or when I got out of the military, I lost like my identity basically when I got out because I wasn't ready to get out of the military, so it just messed me up mentally even more. So I could definitely relate to more of all the signs and the things she was going through. So
Mm.
So he's seen my triggers, but a lot of loved ones, they may not know that. So I was kind of blessed in an area because somebody who knew PTSD, knew depression, knew losing your identity from moving from, this one place to this. But loved ones that maybe are watching your show that are saying, I have a loved one coming home, and maybe they can look back at this and say, maybe I need to be ready for the triggers of just hugging them, or, if they're in the bathroom for a long time, just let them be.
Or surprises.
Yes, surprises sometimes.
Not the best thing. People don't understand that. It's not the best thing.
Oh, she thinks it's funny when she does it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, maybe when somebody first gets out of prison, don't stand behind a door and wait to scare them and think that's funny. Because for somebody coming out of prison, that's not funny. That's like, oh, okay, well, here we go. So I think that understanding too, that when people come out, if you're a mother or father and you've been away from your children for years, and I'm not a parent, so I can't imagine how this felt for a lot of my sisters that came home. But all of a sudden people want to be like, oh, you're home, here's your kids. Oh, you're home, take over life. And because they've been doing it for a long time. Wives have been doing it for a long time. They've been taking care of the kids. They've been doing this and that. And we got to let people ease into that, because that pressure can sometimes be like, oh, I can't handle this. I can't handle taking 3 kids right now when I just got out and I'm trying to figure out how to get a job and this and that. So I think when it comes to loved ones, the biggest thing to do is have patience and understanding and communication.
Wow, yeah, and that's powerful. Like you said, for you to, like you said at the beginning, have a companion that understood you. See, that's one of the biggest problems out here in the world, where people don't understand or can't really, not necessarily say you can't relate, but you can't understand why a person acts the way they do. As you mentioned, when the surprises, me, I don't like surprises. I don't like receiving things as well. I don't take it as, they say, oh, when your birthday, I want to get you something. No, you're not going to get me anything because I don't want to receive it. Because I just have that no, because now there's something attached to that.
And that comes from what, Keenan? That comes from in prison. Don't take nothing from nobody, because one day they're either going to throw it in your face or you're going to pay for it in many different forms. That could be whatever. And so we had a saying in Missouri, it's called "Don't take the chips." Don't take the chips, because you're going to pay double for them. You're going to be doing sexual favors, or they're going to come back later and be like, hey, remember when I gave you those chips? Now you owe me. And if you don't want to do that, you know what I'm saying? So I think people don't realize that getting something like that from people, it feels odd to us. It feels awkward. It feels like, okay, now you're going to say I owe you something later, and I ain't going to owe anybody.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest things. Like, I've had people want to, offer me gifts, like, especially like out here in the world for my birthday, stuff like that. But I'm like, no, it's okay. But then they'll still try to do it anyway. Like, I feel bad because actually my business partner, his wife, and I know they probably watch it, but his wife had bought me like all of this stuff. Like, I think because it was when I bought my first property, and she had bought me like all of this stuff, like to make sure the house was cool and everything. And I literally still have everything she bought me sitting inside of a bin. Like, I never even opened. This was about 3 years ago. I never opened it. And I felt real bad because it's just like I just didn't want to receive it. Even though I know it was no ill malice behind it, but I'm just so structured in a way like that. I can't, it's just like, nah, I just can't open it. You know what I mean?
Because if you ever tell me you gave that to me, it's still packaged up for you to take back.
Exactly. Because people will do that. People will do that, especially out in the world. I was speaking on a podcast where I was speaking before, where I was saying, sometimes people will do that. They'll throw things if they see. I thought in prison, we went away when we were young. So I thought prison was probably the worst of the worst. Everybody, was a lot of people were evil. But I thought coming home, okay, we're dealing with regular civilians, good citizens. But I'm trying to find out we're just the same. They're just the same or worse, if not worse, out here than it is in there. It's just people, they mask up more. They mask up more, The facial expression doesn't really show their heart. It's like playing poker. You know, they can have
Well,
a smile on, but they're trying to bluff you.
and there we were in a closed environment, so eventually you've seen somebody's true personality. Eventually, out
Eventually.
here, you don't know what's true from Facebook to TikTok to
That's true.
Instagram to Twitter to their home life. What was it? I always hear they say it in federal court. I guess I've learned this other day that everybody has their life, a secret life, and a skeleton life.
Uh-huh. Wow.
So it's the things people see. Then you have your behind your closed door, and then they have the ones that nobody wants them to know, their skeleton life. And so I was like, that's pretty deep, And so, and it is true though out here, especially out here. It's I think it's really hard to grasp, like we talked about before. In there, we respected each other. We may not even like each other. You and I might be on the yard. We have differences. We don't jam. None of that.
Yeah.
But there's a respect. And if stuff goes down, we're coming together whether we like each other or not, because it's us against them.
Absolutely.
Right? Out here, everybody's against each other. Even your best friend will turn their back on you quick out here for a couple dollars.
For a couple dollars, they'll be texting that person in the same room you in. It's sad. It's real sad. I didn't know it was like that. Honestly, because I went away when I was 15. So me coming home, like I'm thinking like, okay, people will be nicer, people will be cool. But then it took for me to bump my head a couple times to say, hey, you can't just be as open or vulnerable or thinking that you can trust people like that. No, because those main people will be talking about you, biting your back out, sharing information that you thought they was going to keep confidential. You know what I mean? So it comes, like you said, you got to be more guarded out here than anything. It's very sad, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, I watched too many Hallmark movies when I was inside and thought it was going to be like Hallmark when I got out. And I watched Lifetime too, so I knew there was probably a happy medium. But I decided it is definitely definitely a strange environment. Nothing, and that was the thing too. When I came home, I had these visions and dreams of what the world was like. I'm sure you did too, going in as a child.
Yeah.
And you thought things were going to be so different. You thought people changed like you did. And then you come home and they're still doing the same stuff they were doing when you got locked up. And you're like, man, you still about drama. You still in the gang. You still, and I've been gone 25 years. And it's shocking. And it's almost, it aggravates you because they think that you're still that same person. And that could be a trigger because they want to pull you back to that trauma, that drama, and all of that. And, I've had to let some of my own family members go because it's okay to tell your family, I'm walking away from this.
Exactly. And that's the best thing. Same with me. I had to do that with my family as well because they were doing the same thing. They were being alcoholics. They wanted to smoke, not do nothing with life. But then now it's like my resistance was not only triggering them, but it was also triggering me that they were getting upset at that. Like, y'all get upset because I want to change my life. I want to do what's right. I want to get around some positive people. I don't want to be around this. Oh,
now you're square.
Yeah, you swear you too good for us. This, that, and the third. Like, no, it's not that, but I'm better off. Like, why would I want to be in this surroundings? Like, I don't want to conform to what y'all doing. I understand it's okay to, if you want to drink, occasionally, but when you're drinking, smoking, house full of smoke and all that. And look, if they want to do that, they want to do that. But if you're not going anywhere in life, it's like, nah, I'm cool. You have somebody here, Mr. Mark E. Smith. What's up, Mark? He said, thanks for sharing these insights. He must have really been enjoying everything that you've been saying. He's a big community activist in Philadelphia as
awesome.
well. Yeah. So
I think that's another thing too, is that in a community, when you come home, if your people that you thought were going to be there for you are not, it's okay to go out into the community and find those people that have the organizations and build yourself around those resources and start building your life around that. I mean, we made a family in prison. You can make a family out here too. Blood is not always thicker than water. Some of my truest family members are still incarcerated and I fight for them now to this day. because they have more integrity and loyalty than probably anybody I've ever met since I've been home these last 6 years.
Wow.
And, you know, I think that even after you're home for a long time, triggers don't go away easily. And people think that, okay, you've been home for 4 months. Why does that still bother you? Or why does this still bother you? And you're like, because I've been gone 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It still bothers me, certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And people have to realize that it might take a little poking and prodding to get people to communicate who came home, what they're going through, because they haven't shared their emotions, their
Yeah.
thoughts, or been vulnerable. And you're asking somebody to come home and just be vulnerable. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to, if you have a loved one coming home, just be patient
Be
and
patient.
know that they're just navigating the world that they've been out of for a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll say one other thing. I know 30 minutes is pretty good. One other thing is working on the workplace. Now, mind you, here it was. I went away as a kid. I came home, went to a workplace. I advanced in management, right? So now I'm used to being in an environment full of a bunch of men, hostile, aggressive. It was a different type of environment. So now when you have an assembly line of 30 women where the line cannot stop, you have to hit numbers. You're going to cheer them on. Oh, come on, keep the line moving. Don't stop it. Now y'all talking too much. Y'all better keep it going. Now, why y'all doing this? They can take that as a form of aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, why is he yelling? I'm just motivating y'all. Come on, let's go. What y'all doing? But I had to recollect and say, hold up, this is a female you're talking to. This is not a man. You got to be more gentle. But it took for one of the females to take me in the closet and tell me. She said, listen, I know you work hard, but you got to remember we're women.
Right.
We're gentle. And I was thinking, but when she told me that, it made sense, because I'm thinking like, well, they're not men, but I'm just trying to get y'all to work harder. They say, yeah, but we have feelings. We're sensitive. So it was a trigger to me when they used to get upset. Then they used to tell HR, oh, yeah, he yelling at us down here, and all this, something like that. Man, I ain't even yelling. But it was something I had to get adjusted to, and I had to learn. You know what I mean? So dealing with that sector, being used to women and understanding them and how sensitive they were.
Yeah. And I had to realize that not every man was aggressive. So, because in prison, the male officers were very aggressive. You know, the way they yelled at us, the way that they were, demeaning, they were aggressive. And so for me, aggressive man, I had to learn, thank God I have a gentleman.
I've had to learn how to control my voice.
The combat soldier. What?
Yeah. When he does his military voice, he gets the look. Okay, he gets the look like.
I can't do it at home.
No, we don't do military voice at home. No.
Oh wow.
But if I need to get her attention, it will get her attention.
But what's crazy is how much veterans coming home from war and somebody coming home from prison, that's the connection we really got that brought us together, because he understood exactly what I was going through. And there's not much difference from a combat warrior and a person coming from war out of prison. That it's
the same feelings. I mean, the way your camaraderie and the way your whole life is when you're there is another versus anywhere else that you'll find. And I mean, it's just one of those. My train of thought is the deals of it, I guess.
Just get lost out here trying to figure out who you are again without pressure.
Wow. But that's powerful. That connection, like you said, coming from two different war zones, but being able to connect, that's like definitely a divine connection. That's great. That's excellent. And Yeah, I'm trying to
It's a
see if there's
dating app right there.
Did you hear him?
What did he say?
He said that's a dating app right there.
I did, yeah. Oh, there you go. Hey, no, yeah. Hey, I actually been
Oh,
thinking
was you in the
about
military? Were you in prison? We could connect you.
we can connect.
Telling the veterans, oh, we got you.
Veterans and things like that. That's it. I actually been looking into engineering. I wanted to learn how to build an app. There's a couple apps I have in mind. So
Awesome. I'm starting a 12-week course. It's called with Emergent Works. They're out of New York. They actually work with system impacted people. So we'll have to connect you with that. And it's digital literacy. I'm taking a 12-week course about all that. So there's so many organizations like that now that are starting to do things that help more of us come home actually get better jobs. There's second chance hiring. All kinds of things are starting to come about. So I think as those things start to rise, it will help more of us as we come home.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah. So, Ms. Sheena, I mean, if you want to continue, it's totally up to you. I think we did pretty well for these 35 minutes, 36
I
minutes.
think so. I think so. I mean, if anybody has questions, I don't know if anybody has questions.
Feel free. Yeah, I know a lot of people. I know I was on earlier. I've been doing a lot of things.
Listen, every time I turn on my Facebook and stuff, I see you. I'm like, oh, get it.
Yeah, and we just and you'll see a lot of people, even though we may have circulated some last week, they'll be popping them now. Like I seen a couple where you were on there and talking, they give a lot of feedback, and so they're always circulating. Yeah, so I mean, I guess without further ado, I guess we could probably go ahead and get ready to end this thing.
Yeah. Well, next week we'll have some exciting stuff, though, right?
Yeah. Next week, yeah, that'll be great. So everybody, stay tuned. Get ready. You're gonna have a great treat next week. Next Thursday, as we usually do. Hopefully, we have the whole crew here again. But it'll be great. People are gonna be tuning in. So without further ado, here we are with Ms. Sheena, her husband. We thank y'all for joining. The Reentry Connect podcast, triggers and pitfalls after release. But until next time, everybody, have a good